spitting cereal out. Let's go jingleless. Hi, good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Stephanie. terrible.
I was going to say,
24 hours here.
A lot of great tweets about a lot of great stuff. We'll just have to throw that out now because here we are again, right? I mean, this is like the TV coverage yesterday. They're like, oh, it's primary day. We should be talking about democracy. But, it's like, whatever. Here we are again. I mean, it's just we're just immersed in the details. All the fatalities and injuries took place inside one classroom at Robb Elementary School. The shooter barricaded himself in one room, killing 2 teachers and 19 children. Go ahead, Bob. Yeah.
Just on every level, upsetting, frustrating, traumatizing. I think to an extent, we all feel this. I remember after Sandy Hook feeling, and I'm getting a little bit of that now, feeling worse than I did after 9/11. It was that kind of experience because it was so compartmentalized and so visceral and personal, because with Sandy Hook and certainly with what happened yesterday with these children, and now we're going to soon learn the names of these children. It's different when it's 18 children than when it's maybe 3,000 people, because you can focus more closely on the people who were lost, and the fact that it is children in this circumstance makes it even
and not
worse,
that their lives are any, or the lives in Buffalo are any less valuable. I mean, it strikes me, Bob, as this horrible pie wheel of we'll get to you. This was a largely Hispanic community, much like the massacre in El Paso. Last week it was African American people in Buffalo. Today it was children again, like Sandy Hook, and it's just. I mean, and you're right. I mean, the detail someone just gave the parent, they had to get parents' DNA because they couldn't identify them. I mean, you're right, Bob. I remember 10 years ago thinking if 6-year-olds shot point blank in the face with an automatic weapon so you can't recognize them doesn't move this country, what is going to, right?
Yeah.
But but again, here we are again with a Sandy Hook right after Buffalo.
If this had been, 18 children dropping dead of lung
19,
cancer
by the
because
way.
someone was
19,
dropping dead of lung cancer because someone was on campus selling cigarettes or whatever, we would ban the cigarettes, wouldn't we? I mean, this is a no-brainer argument as far as the source of this. The common denominator in all of these things are these firearms, the proliferation of firearms, the glorification of these military-style, quite cinematic-looking firearm, the AR-15 being the centerpiece of all of this, manufactured for its aesthetics, for its, its kick, as far as, the reason why a lot of people who suffer from toxic masculinity buy these AR-15s is because they look so tough and they look so beefy and they look like there's something out of an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie or something like that.
Well, Bob,
that's the way they're marketed, and
you're addressing the other thing that we again I don't think talk about enough. It's always guys, and it's generally young guys, and it's generally I mean, as you were saying, it is some combination of misogyny, whether it's an incel or something. There's always some toxic mix of what you just said, toxic masculinity or something. I mean, this was weird on what is this, Travis, on Instagram?
Yeah.
The shooter was messaging with a girl. He didn't even know. She didn't know him. She didn't live in Texas, but he somehow started.
He tagged her in a post
in Instagram. Right. He apparently messaged a woman about his plans before the killing spree. His account posted numerous images of rifles and high-capacity magazines. The woman said in her own post, she didn't know him. She shared screenshots of their conversation. He just said, "Are you going to repost my gun pics?" She responded, "What?" He said, "What do you?" And she said, "What do your guns have to do with me?" And he said, "Just wanted to tag you." She said, "I'm so confused." The account later informed her she should be glad she was tagged. She called the message scary. She said, "I barely know you, and you tagged me in a picture with some guns." Then he texts her, "I'll text you in an hour, but you have to respond. I got a little secret I want to tell you." This is right before the shooting. Anyway, she said, "I don't know him. I don't even live in Texas. The only reason I responded to him is I was afraid of him. I wished I'd stayed awake to at least try to convince him not to commit his crime. I didn't know. He's a stranger. I know nothing about him. He decided to tag me in his gun post. I'm so sorry for the victims and their families. I really don't know what to say." I mean, this to me, Bob, there was sort of like, I don't know, echoes of Jodie Foster. Like, was he trying to impress this girl? Like, this, he doesn't even know her, and he picks some girl on Instagram to,
right.
send pictures of his guns and, I'm going to tell you something I'm going to do, right? I mean, it's
showing off his hobby, showing off his collection. Right. Look what I've got. Look what I've collected here. That's the element here that I think doesn't get enough attention. That guys like this are marketed these firearms with this appeal. I mean, everyone from Ted Cruz to Mitch McConnell. They're all selling firearms to guys exactly like the shooter from yesterday, whose name I will never utter out of my mouth. Yeah. And that's the idea. What they're doing is, imagine this. Imagine collecting cars, having a collection of maybe 20 cars in a hangar somewhere and never driving them. That's, of course, absurd. But people who collect these firearms, eventually they're going to want to use them on something. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to use them on a living being, whether that's an animal, whether that's a family member, whether that's a school full of kids. Eventually, you're going to want to take these out for a test drive. And there are obviously many differences, many different contingencies involved with why a particular shooter does what he does. And I feel confident using the he pronoun on that. Yeah. So there are a lot of factors in this, but I think the proliferation, the marketing of firearms in this country feeds our gun culture. I mean, it's all woven in together. Our politics, our culture,
with masculinity,
exactly. Yeah.
Of course, Trump is scheduled to address the NRA. And of course, they're not going to cancel. Of course not. Friday in Houston, right?
No, this is a national holiday for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've on Friday, I believe that they posted a video of Trump discussing his love for the NRA. I mean, what is somebody? They say it every time, but until this country loves our children more than we love our guns, this will keep happening, right? I mean, go ahead.
Trump thrives in a situation like this, where there's a horrible tragedy, and then he's due to speak about something related to that tragedy. He just loves to use that as a springboard to troll everybody, because that's exactly what he does. And by the way, speaking of trolling everybody, I don't know if you know this, but we have a new thoughts and prayers in the mix here.
Yeah.
Someone named Truth Matters on Twitter collected several messages from members of the Senate where they're now using horrified and heartbroken. Kirsten Sinema, we are horrified and heartbroken by the senseless tragedy. Yeah. Marsha Blackburn, horrified and heartbroken to learn of the significant loss of life.
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell, horrified and heartbroken by reports of the disgusting violence. So it's almost like members of the Senate, these cynical bastards, are getting like copy and paste talking points for how they can respond on social media to this. And it involves the phrase horrified and heartbroken.
Yeah.
How about, instead of coming up with talking points for what you say on Twitter, how about coming up with legislation to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Ruben Gallego tweeted to Kirsten Sinema. How about you do something, rather than, I mean, it's just, she has the power. I mean, she and Joe Manchin has the power to do something about this.
Right.
I mean,
the great irony of Joe Manchin, by the way, not wanting to break the filibuster for this, is that after Sandy Hook, Manchin and Pat Toomey came up with legislation that would have expanded background
Manchin's
checks.
like, let me do it. I can get gun stuff passed. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
It's got to be mine, right?
Yeah,
what happened?
Right.
What happened, Bob?
So it was filibustered. So the one piece of legislation to come out of the Sandy Hook massacre, one of the most tragic events in American history, was filibustered. And it was a Joe Manchin piece of legislation, or a co-sponsored piece of legislation with Joe Manchin. So you'd think that maybe this time around he'd say, hey, you know what? Maybe we should break down that barrier this one time and get something done, because I really got, my legislation got screwed last time. So why don't we do it this? Of course not. Of course he's not going to do that.
Can I just say, I know this is an old story, Travis, but it's just in the light of, here we are again in Kirsten Sinema. Mm-hmm. I was just talking about Ted Cruz thinking everything's a joke and making bacon on his AR-15 for a TV commercial. But she recently was quoted as saying she has a secret weapon when dealing with her Republican colleagues, one that has an extraordinarily persuasive effect. She said it's her cleavage that wins over uptight Republican men. She said it's easy to charm Republican men. Well, how about you charm them into not having our school kids slaughtered every other week in America? I mean, this is not a joke.
Yeah. She claims to have this magical power, but she doesn't use it for good.
Yeah, so use your superpowers for good if your, boobs are so persuasive. Oh my God. I just can't. Can I just say, by the way, I don't even want to know, Travis, but somebody on Twitter said that Tucker Carlson last night was mocking Joe Biden for his speech, saying he's, old and decrepit and, not fit to serve. That's what he took from Joe Biden's powerful words about our children being slaughtered. Is he made fun? It was all, again, like, what's the word, Bob? Theater criticism. Oh, Joe Biden seemed, really? He just got off a 17-hour flight to another mass slaughter of American children. Like, oh, really? It wasn't quite snappy enough for you, Tucker?
Laura Ingraham suggested ballistic blankets for kids in elementary school so they can cover themselves up when a shooter comes in.
Who's going to pay for all of that?
Not the schools in Texas. They don't care.
They don't have they also don't have the money.
This one, by the way, Buffalo massacre survivors and victims' families have filed a class action suit to shut down Fox News. I mean, they are just a poison in every.
It is. It's a completely toxic network, and they're the centerpiece. And that's why, whenever anyone asks, like, who's the most toxic person in recent American politics that completely poisoned the bloodstream of American politics, skewed us off into this tangent in the space-time continuum where we're left with Donald Trump and Sarah Palin and these gun massacres and Ted Cruz. It was Roger Ailes. Roger Ailes really started this entire movement. And obviously there was a political element to it with Ronald Reagan marrying the moral majority in 1980. But there was another aspect to this media aspect that turned it all into the cult. I mean, these guys are pitchmen for a ridiculous ideology in the same way Ted Cruz and Mitch McConnell are pitchmen for the gun lobby. Yeah. There's so much money in this. The amount of money that's floating around both in the gun lobby and in the Red Hat entertainment complex is staggering. And